All right. Today I would like to talk to you about a phase that most people miss because at that point nothing is actually visibly wrong yet. Life still runs, you get up, you answer your messages, you decide things, you show up where you said you would. So from the outside, you look fine, you look competent, you look balanced. And that is exactly the problem because your system is still working. Nobody questions the costs. Not you, not the people around you, not the structures you move in every day. But what quietly changes is not your performance, it's your margin. These decisions start to happen faster. Not because you've become more clearer, but because leaving things open starts to feel quite intolerable. You close loops quickly. You reply just to get it off your plate. You pick the option that reduces pressure now, not the option that actually fits the situation, maybe in the longer term. And that looks like efficiency, but actually it is not. Timing shifts too. You stop sensing it, you manage it instead. You're early when it doesn't matter, late when it does, and not because you don't care, but because your internal pacing is off and you can't quite tell where you are in it anymore. In my practice, I hear this a lot from people who are still on the outside functioning perfectly well. They say things like, I'm just a bit sharper than I used to be, but I get more irritated quickly, but that's probably normal. Or I don't have much more patience for nonsense anymore. And it all sounds reasonable, sensible, adult. But if you listen carefully between the lines, what they're describing isn't personality, it is compression. There's less space between moments now, less pause before responding, less tolerance for noise, questions, delay. The body stays slightly ahead of the situation, on alert, jaw tightens without being noticed, shoulders don't quite drop, relax when sitting down, breathing stays shallow even when nothing urgent is happening. A lot of fidgeting is going on. And not because there's danger, but because stopping no longer feels available. Let that sink in. Not because there's danger, but because stopping no longer feels available. And that's the key point. Nothing breaks here, nothing dramatic happens, there's no obvious outside crisis, but your overfunctioning becomes the proof to the outside world that everything is fine, which is not. And because that still works, the costs of that kind of functioning and overfunctioning stays unnamed. It's not dramatic enough in your eyes to justify concern, not urgent enough for you to slow things down, not visible enough for you to explain to someone else. So it stays internal. It stays buried behind a smile. And I know all about that from my own experience. Then days become narrower. Choices become management. Conversations are steered away from anything that might take time or energy. Even rests turns into a task that needs to be done properly and planned. People often think this phase is resilience, but bloody hell it isn't. It's endurance without slack. The system keeps running by borrowing tension and energy from tomorrow, and tomorrow keeps arriving, and then the day after, and then the day after. What actually makes this phase tricky in your life and in your development is that it doesn't announce itself. There's no moment where you can clearly say, this is where it started. There's just this gradual tightening, a quiet narrowing of options until your life still runs, but only in one or two safe lanes. You don't fall apart yet. You don't collapse yet. You compress. And because nothing is visibly wrong, this phase often lasts the longest. I'm not saying this is burnout. I'm not saying it's depression. I'm not saying anything is wrong with you. I'm saying that this is the phase before those words even start to make sense. But with that, the most important phase. The phase where competence hides the cost, where stability becomes a camouflage, where everything still works, and that is exactly why it goes unnoticed, to your detriment. So I'll leave this here for you to ponder, and if this stays with you, you know where to find me.